the Republican Party's latest battleground, Lake Forest. Joining me, long time but just resigned Lake Forest City Councilman Peter Herzog and publisher of the Flash Report, Jon Fleischman. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
So, Peter, explain this. You are somebody I've always looked at as kind of a local political insider. You are a government consultant by profession. You've served on councils. You've sat on important boards in the county on transportation, water, all those kinds of things. And you just quit. Why?
Well, Lake Forest used to be a great city that was really focused on the people. And unfortunately now we have Mayor Voights, Councilman Robinson, and Councilman Nick, who have now put the people really secondary. It really started in 2010 and then sort of blossomed completely in 2012 and 2013. We had a bought election in 2013. We had two developers come through and launder a whole bunch of money through, and it ended up spending nearly $80,000 to get two additional people elected. And then the results were immediate. Within 25 minutes of being sworn in, Robinson's now putting it on the agenda, wanting to move these projects forward and canceling studies that were sorely needed to fully evaluate the projects that were coming through. And so it became very apparent that really now, even though 4,000 voters have since indicated they oppose the projects, these three really don't care about what the people are saying. And it goes beyond even that. I mean, we're now cronyism on steroids. We had an excellent planning commission, and what they've done, for example, with Commissioner Brower, you had a guy who was paid by Voights, very minimal amount, granted. Now, it's not clear. I mean, somebody's not telling the truth because he's saying it's 2010, Voights is saying it's 2011. But then you go on, he worked for Robinson's company through 2012, just before he was appointed. And then additionally, during the interviews for the Planning Commission, he's posting on Facebook that I count 3 of the 5 council members as my friend. So now cronyism reigns supreme over quality. And then the most distressing thing that led to my resignation was the fact that now they really are actually almost dissing the public. I mean, they're saying that, and these are quotes, they said that one person was disingenuous for coming and talking to the council. They've said that it's
maybe was the person disingenuous?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
They're saying it's a waste of time to come and
Right.
talk to the council, and on and on.
Why quit? I mean, why not stay on the council, be a watchdog for those people who are concerned about these things, and affect change?
Well, and quite frankly, over the last 3 years, I've been trying to work on that, and in particular, the last 10 months, what became very apparent is these three won't listen. They're not going to make changes, and quite frankly, a lot of times you can be far more effective on the outside than sitting on that dais.
Okay, Jon, what about this? This sounds terrible. Buying, people who are bought off. They're not listening to the public. They're being rude, and they're not taking care of the public's business.
Yeah, welcome to the world of television spin, right? What the councilman neglects to tell you is that during his 19 years on the city council, by the way, they had just invented the first Macintosh computer when Peter was sworn into the city council. Over his years on the council, he took plenty of money from trash haulers who got contacts, from developers who were doing work in the city, and he himself is a lobbyist who gets paid to affect outcomes on city councils all around the state. So I think there was an embarrassment factor of the fact that he couldn't achieve outcomes on his own council. And I think a lot of it, if you move beyond Lake Forest and look frankly to all of Southern California, we're seeing a trend as people are concerned about the public employee unions owning both sides of the table and the pension crisis taking place. And we've gotten to a point where a lot of these council members that are serving a decade plus or nearly 2 decades have all they've become government's representatives to the people instead of people's representatives to the government. And I can understand why the councilman would like to point out what he thinks are egregious issues. I'm just saying that you shouldn't throw stones from a glass house, and he's got plenty of his own conflicts. He could have chosen to not take money from people doing business with the city, and he chose to do that.
Peter, those are pretty harsh words about your tenure on the council.
Yeah, never in the history of Lake Forest did we have what happened before. And secondly, quite frankly, if you want to talk about my tenure and try to take personal shots, quite frankly, Lake Forest should be a model city for how to run a small, limited government. We have very few employees. We're a contract city, so we're all into public-private partnerships. Our budget's always been balanced. We have 3 reserves that are full. And even on the business side, we don't have a business license, much less a business license fee. So as opposed to laundering the money through 3 different PACs to attack what really should be the Republican model you want or a small government model, they should have been holding us up as actually, the poster child for this is how government should run. So to me, it's
but he's sitting here. You're saying that the center point of all this is a development of about 400 houses in what was supposed to be an auto center that never really became an auto center. But I mean, you took place in approving over 4,000 houses right in that neighborhood. So I mean, it's kind of like there is a point in time where you have to say that it's unfair to criticize other people for doing what you yourself have done.
Well, obviously then you don't know Lake Forest because there's a huge differential. The rezoning was done after the Marine base closed. And what the situation was there is we actually looked and did it around the fringe. What we're talking about here is trying to take a couple of homes and basically shoehorn them into what is a commercial area. It's a completely different process. And additionally, what was not taken into account is, okay, what is the full impact of those 4,000 houses? And you do planning and projecting. So, I'm happy to discuss this in real detail, but it's very clear that some people don't understand what's going on in Lake Forest.
Let me play the role of psychologist here and say, gentlemen, I don't think it's really about the 400 homes. That's one of the stories, but there's more of a dynamic here. Peter, do you see the party changing? I mean, just in a very general way. Are the people that are coming on and getting elected different than the people who used to be elected?
Well, I think there's been a dramatic change on what the city councils look like, even from 5 years ago. I guess the one thing I never understood, particularly here with the money being laundered through the Republican Party, was, as I said, you sort of had a model Republican city. So it's like, why are you trying to eat your own as opposed to, supporting those who are actually doing the work, as opposed to just flapping their gums?
Well, clearly, and I'm going to ask Jon about this because I think he knows a lot about it, the use of these PACs to kind of shield where the money's coming from. But clearly the party was supporting these other guys, right? They, for some reason, don't seem to be much in favor with the Republican Party in Orange County right now.
Well, I've never in my entire career asked for their endorsement. Because to me, the thing that
to be fair, he's been featured on many a Republican voter guide that have landed in that city during his entire career. I've seen them. Republicans vote for, and there's Peter's name right there. So he has benefited by being a registered Republican in a Republican
But has the mood changed? I mean, clearly there was a time when Peter Herzog running as a Republican, you'd get the support, and now you don't. What's changed?
No, I mean, these voter guides he's talking about, are just the little things. The party has never. I've never asked for their support and never gotten it.
Well, let me just ask you in general, what do you think of the Republican Party nowadays?
Well, I mean, this is a much broader question now at this point.
Let's broaden it out.
I mean, obviously to me, the country and this state in particular are in tremendous trouble. And I think, unfortunately, the party has sort of drifted away from the economy and budget. I mean, you have a president who's never signed a budget. In California, you've got, even through all these claim cuts, the budget continues to grow. Regulations are astronomical. There's a huge amount of material that could be used to discuss. And yet we get into this thing where there seems to be more infighting than really focusing on the need for small, effective government. And that should be what they're looking at. I mean, look at the economy, the budget, and effective government.
Well, what are they looking at?
I'm not sure.
Okay, Jon, what do you think?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, to kind of finish up on the Lake Forest front, I was just going to say that I think the party's engagement and involvement in Lake Forest was not unique. It's involved in a lot of different cities, and it's primarily due to this factor that we have, where so much debt, pension liabilities, and all these factors are occurring at the local level. And here in Orange County, the party feels like we fell asleep at the switch, and we weren't watching what officials who were registered Republican were doing in cities. And it's been egregious, and now the party's gotten more involved. But when you get
back to the fact that Lake Forest didn't have any of that.
Well,
we did not have any.
That would be your opinion.
No, don't look at the numbers.
Yeah, well,
the facts are there.
The facts are there. The facts are, well, we can have that debate another time. But I'm happy to talk about the pensions. You could tell me what the compensation package looks like for your city manager and all those great people, but. When you start looking at the state of California and Washington, I think one of the challenges that we have is we are a party that is messageless. I think Peter brought up a good point. You can't figure out where Republicans are coming from. We should be the party that talks about liberty, freedom, reducing the size of government to empower individuals. And those messages don't strike through because there is a lot going on infighting. And then, of course, here in California, we're burdened by being a super minority where you can't really count on the media, Rick Reiff aside, of course,
Well,
to give you a fair shake.
You're damning me with faint praise here, sir, but what, you know, is there any way out? I mean, this was not that long ago. Let's forget Schwarzenegger because you could argue whether he was a Republican or not. But we had Pete Wilson. We had lots of Republicans in office.
But part of it's the problem. Look what happened with Schwarzenegger. He got elected. This was kind of the final nail, right? He gets elected in a recall, promising he's holding up his broom. I'm going to sweep out the special interests. We're going to turn things around in Sacramento. And in fact, he ends up becoming. He signs the largest tax increase in the history of California. Signs extremely onerous and expensive regulations that are supposedly going to make California's air that much cleaner. But the reality of what they've done is it made it a lot more expensive for everybody here. And so it really destroyed the brand name because it goes to that whole issue now of what do Republicans stand for anymore?
Okay, and I guess we'll close it on that note. I will point out that I asked 2 of the 3 council members you've been arguing with to come on, and they declined. And so, anyway,
So you had
thank
to
you
settle.
again. Thanks very much, gentlemen.